Mental Health Monday on Radio City Talk with Mick Coyle.
Radio City Talk.
Time for Mental Health Monday for another Monday. My name is Mick Coyle. We're going to be talking today about an event which is coming to Liverpool on Friday, the 2nd of November at the O2 Academy. It's a fundraiser with all proceeds going to Paul's Place and James's Place, two organisations we've featured here on Mental Health Monday. I've got details about the tickets. I've got details about the performers as well. But it's a night in memory of two young men who a lot of people who listen to this will be aware of. Some will personally have known, and many of whom will have heard their stories. We've got three guests in the studio, and we're going to talk about the reasons behind the event Talk Tonight. We've got Matt Loughlin with us from the band The Shipbuilders. Matt, great to see you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We've got John Gibbons with us from the Anfield Rap, but he's going to be Compere on the night. Gibbo, great to see you.
Oh, yeah.
And Chris Darrell as well, who is the organiser. Chris, thank you for your time. Mick Woodburn's name, Yozzy Hughes' name, Neil Hughes' name will be names that people will have heard. People may have known the pair of them as well. Just tell us about the night. Tell us about the reason behind Talk Tonight.
The reason behind it was it started off when Michael died. He took his life over in Norway, so you can imagine the expense that was going to get him home. So at first we set to go fund up, and we did bits and bobs, and then we ended up raising like £20,000. So we brought him home, hopefully paid for the funeral, and then there was just more interest, and then the more we looked into it, so we started looking into mental health and suicide, and we were like, the numbers are just unbelievable. It's like 84 young men a week in England take their own life. So we thought, we can do this. We can do this to get them home straight away. We can raise that money. Let's do something for the legacy of them. Let's look, and then so we went looking for charities who we could help, and we found James' Place and Paul's Place. And I've said in previous things, it was so easy to find them places because there's nothing out there. Well, virtually nothing out there to help with suicide or the bereavement of suicide. So we put our heads together and decided, hand in hand, football and music in this city. So that was the catalyst to start it.
It's a great way of making the connection with the right sort of people. It's one of these sort of bizarre stats that the thing as a young man that's most likely to kill you is yourself. You are the biggest threat to yourself. And I think it's only when you hear cases of it and stories of it and affects somebody close to you, you suddenly think, oh, that was actually a human being. That wasn't a stat. Were you shocked when you started looking into it? Because I think it's one of those things that suicide that they start to get quite close to home. And I think it's something maybe as you get a little bit older, you become more and more aware of the fact that it happens more and more often.
Yeah, I was really couldn't believe the stats. And then even with stats such as if you've been bereaved by someone who's committed suicide, you're 300 times more likely to take your own life being a young man. One of the charities said to me, if you stood in front of the cop and you looked at like the 13,000 people there, the main thing that's going to kill them young men, as you just said, is themselves, which is unbelievable. We've looked in it in this country, but light years behind the likes of America, even Europe, and so in its treatments for mental health, suicide. So, we really need to, not let them die in vain, and let's have a little bit of a legacy for them.
Gibbo, the number of conversations I've heard when people have talked about the likes of Mick and Neil, they're just lads who go the game.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things where, that you see the pictures on social media, and these are, big groups of lads who are at away games and things like that. They just look like a load of lads who are going to the game, but one of them's not with us anymore, or two of them aren't with us anymore. It's a very sobering thing, isn't it, when you look at those images, because they do look like you and your mates. Maybe you were even part of that group yourself.
Yeah, and I didn't know Yozzy, but Mick was a mate, and he used to go everywhere, and it was always great to see him. It was always a good laugh. Obviously, he moved over to Norway, so saw him a bit less, but he always tried to do the European aways, and he was very popular lad amongst a lot of different groups of people, and I think that's what you struggle to deal with in terms of suicide. You think, well, everyone liked him, he must have known how popular he was, or how well liked he was, and how people would have been there for him. So why didn't he think? But obviously, people get to a place where the judgment's clouded, or that's not enough anymore. And I think that's something sometimes as well as, me and Chris have had conversations about what more we could have done in certain situations, and sometimes you've just got to say, well, maybe we did try our best, but hopefully events like this, and it's obviously in memory of those two lads, but it's about raising awareness of the charities that are out there, the help that you can get. Hope the charities will be there on the night and represented, but also in terms of for all us lads getting better at looking out for each other. We can't bring those two lads back now, unfortunately, as much as we'd love to, but what we can is just make sure that your friends that you have still got, making sure they're okay, checking in with them, not waiting until someone says there's something wrong, but instead looking out for signs, and just being there for each other. So making sure you do text back rather than go, oh well, I'll leave it, I'll see him next week, because what a lot of us have learned is unfortunately that there might not be a next week. Yeah,
absolutely. That idea as well of having that relationship where among a group of friends, male, female, whoever, that idea, I've got your back.
Yeah.
I've got your back. If there's something going on, I've got your back. And actually, it doesn't bring people back, but actually, it potentially prevents the next one. You know? And I think if you can create that environment, then absolutely, let's create it at music nights, let's create it at football matches, let's create it in a workplace. Let's try and create that situation, that environment, wherever we can.
Yeah, and the idea that it's okay to say you're struggling, and it's okay to open up to your friends. And I think we all have a kind of a macho thing sometimes growing up, where you think, you need to be hard, you need to be strong, you need to be tough, and it's not none of those things to say you're struggling. Sometimes, in fact, quite the opposite. And so getting that, and I think what Chris will say with our group of friends, I think we are getting better at opening up and speaking, because obviously we've been through it. But I mean, But the first thing, to be honest, when it happened with Mick, the first thing I said to the young lads who I work with, I look after your friends, because I've lost 3 or 4 now, and it's hard and it's tough, and so I think it's almost kind of for the next generation of not just match going lads, but any lads in the city, that if you're in your 20s, if you just turn 21 or whatever, your life's all in front of you, but statistically at some point you'll lose a mate. So try and make sure that doesn't happen, or try and reduce the chances of that happening, because as Chris says, the statistics are frightening. The stats say that it will at least be someone eventually who'll be thinking about these things.
Talk Tonight is the name of the night, taking place Friday the 2nd of November, the O2 Academy in Liverpool. All the details via ctickets.com, with proceeds going to Paul's place and to James's place. Gibbo's the compere for the night as well. Gibbo, who are you introducing on stage?
It's a brilliant lineup. Obviously, Louis Berry is the main star. It's great that Louis got involved. The lads who spoke to Louis said he was straight in with a yes, so that's brilliant. Peach Fuzz, who are one of the most exciting bands in the city at the moment, real emerging stars. Jamie Webster, and Kieran Molyneux, who lads will know from around the Liverpool games, do a lot of the boss nights and perform a lot, so they'll get a real crowd going, and they know how to sort of entertain and get people going. And then we got the Shipbuilders, and who Matty's here to represent today, who again jumped at it. I messaged Matt saying, will you do it? And he just said yes straight away, and then the band were quick to follow. So I think it's a real testament to everyone involved, really, and the number of lads who were organising it, who were just all saying yes, we'll get involved, we'll get stuck in, what do you need? And the loads of people who've given up raffle prizes and stuff as well, need a shout out as well. But the bands have been great, they're giving up the time, and as I say, Matty was straight in, weren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Matty Loughlin with us from Shipbuilders. I imagine this will be a gig like no other, really, because there'll be that sort of reflective mood in the air, but at the same time, one of the things about enjoying life, celebrating life, getting together with your friends will be about that sort of those gig moments, creating those moments where you can often maybe even forget your fears, forget your worries, and enjoy yourself.
Absolutely, and that's why I think a gig is the perfect way to do this, because obviously everyone knows why they're there, but it becomes a celebration and nobody forgets it, but nobody sits there and dwells on it. So when Gibbo asked me, I jumped at it straight away, because in my serious life, I'm a clinical psychologist, so obviously this is kind of the two aspects of my life that I thought put together and make a real difference. I think everyone involved should be really proud of themselves, because it's, I mean, as Chris said, the stats are just the mind-blowing. You can't begin to get your head around that. And I think more events like this raise awareness. Now, that's something that's thrown out a lot, isn't it? Raise awareness, but raise awareness of what exactly? And I think the brilliant thing about this is that it raises awareness of 3 things. One, it's the fantastic charities that, the more promotion they can get, the better. And then the twofold awareness of suicide. Not a lot of people want to talk about it, understandably. But it's raising awareness that this does happen, and we all have a responsibility to look out for each other. It's all very well saying it's okay not to be okay and telling people to speak up. That's easier said than done. You don't know what's going on in people's heads. So as Gibbo's saying, it raises awareness that, you know what, it's our job sometimes to look out for each other. If you haven't seen your mate for a few weeks, message them, are you okay? Or, you know, just that general, do you fancy a pint? It doesn't have to be come out and tell me about your suicidal thoughts. But the last thing I think is brilliant to raise awareness is the fact that this goes on inside people's heads, young men's heads, all the time. And that's the point. It is all the time. And I think the more awareness of that is better, because suicidal thoughts are so common. They really, really are. I've had them. I'm sure everyone who you'll meet on the street, if they haven't had one, someone they know will have them. There's a world of difference between a thought and an action, however. So the more people are able to talk about these suicidal thoughts, doesn't mean just because you have suicidal thoughts doesn't mean you're going to go out and kill yourself, but the not talking about it increases that likelihood. So events like this where people say, do you know what, I'm having these thoughts, I am struggling, combined with an environment where we give people the space to talk about it, it's twofold, and well, threefold if you throw in great charities like the ones that are getting involved in this. So that's why I think this, plus with the fact you're saying it's just going to be a good night, great lineup, you know, it's just going to be a good night as well. I think it just ticks all the right boxes, and I think everyone should be so proud of themselves, and I just hope people buy tickets and get down. Talk
tonight, O2 Academy Liverpool, Friday the 2nd of November, ctickets.com. I've said it many times on this show, and I'll carry on saying it. I got a tweet the other day, and it was off the back of a conversation I've been having about talking about mental health, and somebody said, well, what's the point in just talking about it if you're not going to do take any action on it? But I think we're very much still in the early stages when it comes to discussing mental health. I think we're in the really earliest possible stages of it. If there is an evolution, though, there's something that I've seen and something I'd hope for, is that we're getting to a stage now where we do it a lot on this program, but we say to people, it might not be you who needs to talk. It might not be you with suicidal thoughts, but it might be your best mate. It might be your brother. It might be your dad. It might be your mum. You might be the person that they turn to and say, I've been having suicidal thoughts. Then what are you going to do? Now, if you've learned to sort of get your head around the mental health thing, if you've been to events like this, if you were at the Perps game at the weekend when they had the involvement there from Chasing the Stigma and State of Mind, you are of a mindset where you're thinking, all right, this is a conversation I feel ready to have because of the fact I embrace nights like this, the football, whatever it will be, taking part in the 20-minute Zero Suicide Alliance training. Small steps, if you like. So you might be the solution. You might not be one of those steps, but you might be the solution to one of those people's problems.
I think that's where education, through nights like this, through even shows like this, it's fantastic because it's brilliant. It just takes the stigma out of it, but it takes the fear out of it. Oh, how do I ask someone? How do I tell someone I'm feeling like this? If they tell me this, what's out there? If you don't know, you don't know. You know what I mean? But just kind of knowing that suicidal thoughts are actually quite normal. Or, there are places like these charities that can help. Just knowing these things, it's as you said, it's that first step. And if that can be the first step into someone actually going, do you know what, I'm struggling here, what do I do, mate? And you go, okay, that sounds really tough. Have you heard of this charity? Have you heard GP can offer you this? Just the more awareness that as Gibbo said, we can't bring back the two souls, but we can, with any luck, we can stop the next one.
I think a big turning point for me in terms of thinking about mental health was when people say it's like your physical health is you have just good, and there's times when it's good and there's times when you need some help and you need to do a bit of work on it. And I think when I was younger, I was always like, depression, that's someone else, that's other people get depressed, I don't really. Get sad sometimes, and anxiety, and I didn't really know what that was. And until maybe you get older and different pressures on your life or whatever and things, and then you start to struggle a little bit. At first you're thinking, you don't know what to do almost, and you start to think this is going to be forever, or I'm one of those people I never thought I was. And I think for people to get their head around the fact that everyone struggles at a time, and like Matty says, that sometimes it feels overwhelming and you don't know what to do, but it will pass. Those moments will pass, and with other people's help it's easier because there are people kind of out there to support you. And I think what Chris and a few of the lads have been talking about is maybe doing a little bit of training, so you know what to say when people say, and it's not, I'm not talking about big like week-long or being a doctor like Matt, but like the idea of just knowing like what to say when people say they're struggling, because I think we do struggle, if you like, with that a little bit. But I think, as I say, a big turning point for me was just viewing it as that it is like your physical health, and some days you're going to feel great in your body, and other days you might struggle. But there are things you can do, even though it feels like sometimes that there isn't. You know, for me, just getting a bit physically fitter and being outdoors more and stuff like that has really helped me in terms of putting me kind of problems in perspective and clearing my head and stuff like that. And that's just myself. I know other people have got little things that they've done, but I think, you know, in terms of the things you're looking to do, Chris, I think is important.
Well, we've a couple of the lads who've been out and running up. We've already had people come up and approach us saying, I feel a bit down. I feel a bit, you know. And all we're relaying is what we've learned in the past 2-3 weeks of what we've spoke to these charities about. So that's what John said. We've been talking to charities that we want some sort of training. We want to be. Hopefully, we want to have a talk with Liverpool and maybe having a group of us who are a focal point of Liverpool fans. So there's, you know, the ground's 50,000 people, the majority young men. And I feel so we want to be that first step, to guide people. Because we've already had people already come up to us just by doing this, starting this night. So hopefully we're already helping people. So we just want to continue that.
I think the other thing is to sort of bear in mind the days of man up, the days of chin up, they're gone. They've got to be gone because actually that's never worked. Nobody's ever benefited from somebody saying, chin up, mate.
Yeah.
No, it's not enough, that is it? I mean, unless that's the clinical psychologist. But that sort of advice, and you still get it, don't you? Sort of like, you know, COD psychology that goes, just pull yourself together.
Yeah.
It'd be sound, and you're like, oh no. Well, the last time I saw him, he seemed all right, so his problems must have disappeared.
Yeah. I mean, you're always going to get the Piers Morgans of the world who say it's not the manly thing to do, but I mean, the stats speak for themselves, don't they? You know, I don't think we really have to say much more than that.
Yeah, certainly when Piers Morgan's involved. We got Matt, we got John, we got Chris in the studio. Talk tonight, coming to the O2 Academy, Friday the 2nd of November. Tickets are available via ctickets.com. Paul's Place and James's Place, both charities will benefit from tonight as well. The night, Talk tonight, and you can get tickets. All the details, ctickets.com. We'll continue our conversation next here on Radio City Talk.
Mental Health Monday with Mick Coyle.
Radio City Talk.
My name's Mick Coyle, 2:45. It's Radio City Talk. It's Mental Health Monday. Don't forget today's show will be available as a podcast and also as a video via YouTube, the Radio City Talk YouTube channel. Continuity error there. Gibbo's now put one of the posters for the evening on the desk, which will look a little bit odd when people are watching on the video. Just magically appear.
It's so I forgot Timo, and I can't believe it because he's been mate. But Timo Tierney's performing on the night as well. Obviously from T Street Band, they're one of the best bands in the city, so I didn't want to make that mistake again, as he's been mate.
Talk tonight, which is the night coming to the O2 Academy in Liverpool on the 2nd of November. Chris Tyrrell's one of the organisers, John Gibbons the Compere on the night, and Matt's one of the performers as well. He's also a clinical psychologist as well. Chris, you're going to have the opportunity to talk on the night as well. The organisations that we mentioned, James's Place and Paul's Place, two families basically who have basically faced their own issue in regard to suicide, two tragic cases in both James and in Paul, two Pauls, in fact, in the case of Paul's Place. I should correct that, yeah. And they've decided they're going to do something. They're going to be the difference in the way that you've had your experience and you've thought, right, we're going to be the difference. There's very much a sense of this when you get into the mental health community that people who've gone, you know what, I had this, other people shouldn't have this, let's make the difference as well. And those guys will be there on the night to share their stories and explain really why they're there and the opportunities that they can offer people too. Yeah,
well, I say you're right. In, you know, our story's the same as theirs. It's until you've been at the end, you know, the hard end of it. You know, we looked and there's nothing there. There's nothing. We didn't want this to happen to anyone else, and it was the same with them. And then we found them after our own heartache, and you know, there's just nothing there. There's very little there for the, and it's, you know, it's at the forefront of everyone's mind at the moment with everything that's been going on, and so we're all, until it happens to you, you don't really, and again, you don't talk about it, so these charities and what we're doing tonight, it's all about talking, all about getting in front of it, and all about helping each other.
I guess that's one of the things, and, you know, Matt, I'm sure you've got experience of this one in terms of your work, but also, you know, your personal life. Why would you be thinking about suicide? Why would you think about, you know, the potential of suicide? You know, it's not a particularly nice thing to be thinking about, but just having a little bit of information, maybe about organisations that might be out there, just so that if you did need the information, you've got it in your back pocket. You know, you've got it in a little card in your wallet. You've got it somewhere on your phone. You've got it saved in your internet history as well. We're not yet there, are we, in terms of people seeking out these places and knowing about them just in case? You don't always need the A&E, but you know where it is when you got to go, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's spot on. And even though I've kind of worked within mental health for years, I didn't actually know about Paul and James's place until this event. So, that in itself highlights the gap in like kind of public knowledge, or as you say, you don't sit down and think, right, okay, I'm going to think about suicide tonight and all but just kind of knowing it and just knowing it's there, knowing what's there. It might be you, as you said earlier, it might be your mate, it might be someone you work with. If you just know it's there, and that's why I said earlier, education's just vital. And it's not, as Gibbo said, it's not a week-long course that you have to go on. It can just be the little thing of knowing the name, James's place for
saying that we don't, no one talks about it and all that. As soon as you talk to someone about what we're doing or why, and you talk about suicide, they go, oh yeah, I know such and such, such and such took his own life, such and such, oh well, I knew that. And then you talk, and then these people start reeling 3, 4, 5 people off who they've known personally who've committed suicide. And for this to happen to everyone, and it be so, and people not being not know anything about it is unbelievable. But we all know someone.
But that's that cultural thing, isn't it? Where you go, well, he died, that was a heart attack, hit by a bus, suicide. We just like real. Now, sometimes you die, you can't help dying, but with suicide, it's preventable. We got 6,000 people here. If this was a malaria bug, if this was a mosquito, we'd all have mosquito spray and nets above our beds. But actually, it's out there, and I think society feels like we've almost got to the point where we just accept it. Oh, people will fall on hard times, and then they'll do, they'll make their own choices in life. But actually, these are things which we can stop. We can intervene. We can make these interventions, and we can make them today. We can make them tomorrow. We could make them yesterday if we want to.
We could probably sit here and talk for 4 hours about suicide. It's such a complex, and obviously every single case has got its own factors contributing to it. But I think you're spot on. If it was an outbreak of, an overnight virus, you think, how do we help this? How do we make sure this doesn't affect any more people? That's why nights like Talk Tonight and the charities involved and, the NHS provisions that are there, that's why I think they're fantastic, and they should just get as much publicity as they can. And nights like Talk Tonight, and I've said it earlier, but I really think everyone should be so proud of themselves. Yeah,
there's something to be said, Gibbo, isn't there? That if these things take place within... And, I'm going to call the O2 Academy a grassroots environment. Let's call it a grassroots with quote, normal people. This isn't a clinical setting. You talk about Paul's place and James's place. They're not clinical settings. There's no men in white coats and paddy tails. It's not about that. But there's still a perception, I think, that if you're going to talk about suicide, that's the environment you're moving towards. This is about a gig. And it's quite a simple thing to say, come to a gig. Come to a gig. You don't have to sit down with anybody. There's not going to be a chair that you've got to sit in, and just come to a gig. Experience the environment.
Yeah, look, nothing's going to get solved that night. You know what I mean? We're not going to have someone walk away with suddenly all the problems go away, but it might be the start of someone's journey, and that's really, really important. It might be the start of someone going, do you know what? My mates have come to this thing, so maybe I can open up to them and they'll understand. Or there's that organisation there, and I didn't realise. I thought, as you say, if there was something wrong with my head, I'd have to go to a psychiatric ward or somewhere. It's this really welcoming place. It's on Catherine Street. You go in there, they seem like really nice people. I'll pop up there. So hopefully, as I say, it's the start of someone's journey towards better mental health, because that's what a lot of us are just aiming for, really. It's just to have things that feel like they're more manageable. It's having not taking problems away, but feeling like they're more solvable, and you're not alone in them either.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that, Chris, if you listen through to a conversation, or hear conversations about mental health, it almost becomes easier to then turn to your mate in the pub and you say, you remember that fella talking about that? That sounds like me, that. Yeah. That's kind of, I always think that's a good way of sort of getting in. That thing about not feeling okay, I sometimes feel a little bit like that. There are conversations which you can have, which doesn't mean, lads, sit down. I've got something to say. It doesn't have to sound like that at all. It can still be a really regular and normal conversation, which then might go, well, actually, there's two organisations that we can pick out there. You can say, visit hubofhope.co.uk. It'll location, and it'll tell you which mental health services are nearby. Let's go and see your GP. I'll come with you if you want. They're things you can do. And again, you don't have to be an expert to be able to do those things.
As you say, I think we're all guilty of it, of not having them normal conversations, of not saying, are you all right, mate? I've noticed, we're all guilty of that. And as you say, is it a society thing? Is it we need to break them barriers down and have it so it is normal, so it is, just to say to someone, are you okay? Are you feel that? We got speaking to people in the charities, they were telling us, if you think someone is having suicidal thoughts, go up to them and say, are you feeling suicidal? I never thought of that. I'd be the last thing I'd think of if someone thought. I'd just try and put your foot round it, and then, but it's, go up and ask, just speak, just be normal, and it should be a normal conversation.
The clinical psychologist was nodding there. Did you see that?
He's got very wise, Chris, over the last few weeks. I tell you,
the past 2 weeks, it's really. I'm working building sites and construction. I don't know nothing of mental health. Only what I've learned the past few weeks, and it's angering me that I didn't know anything about mental health, that it's such an alien topic.
Well, building sites, actually, as somebody who works in a building site, you are actually more likely to take your own life as a man working on a building site than other people who work in other professions, but you won't be allowed on that building site without a hard hat and your proper boots on. Yeah. But no one's actually going to say to you, oh, and are you suicidal? Because that might be a bigger threat to any bit of scaffolding.
In fact, I've been worried. I got told if you know someone who commits suicide, you're 300% likely to take your own life. And then if you work on a construction site, I've started being getting a bit worried. You know what I mean? But we are, and probably one of the last places you'll hear someone talk about mental health and stuff is on a building site. It'd be the same. Oh, shut up, it'll be all right. Heads up, don't worry about it. Some people, the reaction of some people, of like when we said like Michael had died, and the people, oh, what a selfish so and so he was. What are they? Still, even though he took his own life, and trying to explain to them what type of place must he have been to take his own life. No, they're just all selfish. I understand when you're upset and all that, but it's we've got to knock them barriers down.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, do you know what you're doing in terms of your set? Have you picked a set? Is it a specific set because of the nature of the night, or are you just going to give it some?
I'll give it both battles as ever.
That's what I say. Like, it is going to be fun, and I think like we've talked about all the serious stuff and the reasons we're doing it, and look, there'll be stuff going on the night, but it is going to be a laugh, and I want everyone to think about coming. It's a brilliant gig. For 20 quid to get that lineup is absolutely amazing. And look, I'm comparing the night, and I'm going to make sure it's a lot of fun, and I'm going to be laughing, and I'm going to be drinking, because look, we've got Mick's funeral this week, and a lot of us have had a tough time, in this group of friends, not just with this but with other stuff as well, and like, I'm sick of crying, to be honest with you, and I'm just going to get drunk and have a laugh, and so that's what next Friday the atmosphere is going to be. So the Shipbuilders are going to do storming sets, everyone is, and everyone's going to enjoy it, but then obviously remember why we're there, and go away with the feeling that we've had a good time, we've got together with our mates, and that's what it's all about, but hopefully go away a little bit more knowledgeable as well.
Another thing is, it's not just a Liverpool fans thing, although Mick and Jose were massive Reds. We've also learned there's a couple of Everton lads who've got friends who've took so everyone is involved, everyone is welcome, doesn't matter, red, blue, anything. We want everyone to come, enjoy the night, just have a laugh, and then raise a few quids and a bit of awareness.
That idea, Chris, as well, that those who experience suicide might be then more likely to take their own life. You've obviously found yourself falling potentially within that category. How have you found it been the last few weeks in terms of the journey that you've been on? What have you felt in terms of the benefits of it? It's within the tragic circumstances, of course, but have you felt that this journey that you've been on, having had the experience, has been a positive one?
Definitely, yeah. Definitely, 100%. We keep saying to the people who we meet, I said to Jane from James' Place, I wish I'd never met you. And I meant that in the nicest way possible.
Because she's lovely.
Yeah, but it meant Michael would still be here, and we wouldn't be going through this. It's been hard the past few weeks, and there's we've had some terrible deaths in our family. Old, young, we've lost people at Hillsborough. It's so different to lose someone through. We all questioned ourselves. Could I have done that? Should I have phoned him then? Should we let him go back when he went to Norway? Should we? It's hard. It's harrowing, but everyone come together. All the lads, I think there's about 10 of us involved who are coming to do this, put this thing on and meeting these charities. So we're going to have a silver lining on this cloud, definitely.
Talk tonight at the O2 Academy in Liverpool, Friday the 2nd of November. All proceeds going to Paul's Place and James's Place. Tickets via ctickets.com. Gibbo, what time are you stepping on stage?
I think first band's 7:30, so I'll be on about 29 minutes past.
And there's going to be representatives from those charities who are going to be there as well, if you want to have a conversation on behalf of either yourself or a mate as well. In memory of Mick Woodburn and Neil Hughes as well. Talk tonight. Tickets available once again, ctickets.com. This is happening on Friday the 2nd of November 2018. Matt Loughlin from the Shipbuilders. Enjoy the set. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for bringing your expertise to it as well. Compere John Gibbons and Chris Tyrrell as well. Talk tonight again, 2nd of November. You're with Radio City Talk. It's Mental Health Monday.